Good morning, everyone. It's such a real pleasure to welcome you back and to see so many familiar faces here with us, joining from different parts of the world. My name is DOHA ZAMEL, and I'm a hydraulic engineer and speaking to you today as a member of the coordination team of Cassandra. And on behalf of the entire team, thank you for being here and for staying with us for the second day of this important conference. Yesterday, we explored how climate change intersects with health, migration, armed conflict, and gender inequality. And we heard very powerful testimony from local community leaders who are turning knowledge into action under extremely challenging circumstances. Today, we move one step further from understanding to connection and to expansion. I'm going to give like a brief overall of our today's program. So the program is structured around three main themes. First one will be revolving around the role of science embassies. It means how scientific and technological expertise can move beyond reports and conference and become a real, tangible resource for communities on the ground. The second, we will discuss the urgent need for experts across sectors to communicate clearly with society as a whole, not just with policymakers or peers, but with citizens, communities, and those living the consequences of climate decisions every day. We all know, and it has been emphasized yesterday, that knowledge that cannot be shared clearly cannot be used, and science that remains silent risks becoming irrelevant. And the third part will be discussing the expansion of Cassandra beyond its current geographical scope, particularly to India, Asia, Central and South America. This expansion is not symbolic. It reflects real demand from communities who want to engage, collaborate, and become part of a global network that values local leadership supported by global expertise. Later today, one of the highlights of the entire conference will take place at 7 in front of a live audience. We will be hosting a high-level panel on the relationship between water, climate change, and gender equality. We'll be joined by an exceptional panel. The former Prime Minister of Tunisia, Mr. Mahdi Jomah, the former Minister of the Environment of Morocco, Ms. Hakima El Haiti, the Slovenian Ambassador at Large for Water, Ms. Tanja Miskova, and last but not least, the Director General of European Affairs and Multilateral Cooperation and Development of the Government of Catalonia, Ms. Andrea Costafreda. But before we get there, today begins where Cassandra always insists we begin, with lived experience and local leadership. It is therefore a privilege for us to introduce our first speaker, Ms. GHADEER ARAFEH, who will speak for about 10 minutes, please be brief, about the situation in Palestine and how Cassandra can support local resilience effort. Please, GHADEER, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, DOHA. Can you hear me very well?
Yes, we can hear you.
Perfect. First of all, good morning and good afternoon, everyone. And thank you for the invitation and for being part of this important conversation. Today, I will be speaking about the environmental resilience in conflict-affected context using Gaza and the West Bank as a case study. So I will talk based on my field experience, policy work, and environmental practice over the past years. My focus is it will not be only political, but it is environmental, humanitarian, and scientific. So we know climate change is often discussed as a technical or future-oriented challenge. So, however, in conflict-affected contexts, climate impacts are happening now, and they are far more survey. So conflict does not just create humanitarian crisis. It dismantles the very systems that allow societies to adapt to climate change, like infrastructure, institutions, data, and planning capacity. So this is why climate change and conflict cannot be addressed separately. And in case of Gaza and West Bank, we know represent a situation of compound risk. And this means that multiple stressors act at the same time and reinforce each other. So in Gaza, we see extreme population density, prolonged blockade, and a large-scale destruction of infrastructure during this ongoing genocide. And also in the West Bank, we see fragmentation, restricted access to natural resources, and limited ability to plan or manage environmental systems. So all of these happened under the Israeli occupation. And together, these conditions create an environmental where even small climate shocks can have devastating consequences. So during war, the environment becomes an invisible casualty. So water systems are damaged or destroyed, leading to contamination of groundwater and unsafe water sources. Also, soil is polluted by debris and chemicals and remnants of conflict, affecting the agriculture and food security. And also air quality deteriorates due to explosions, burning, and lack of monitoring. So also waste management systems collapse, including hazardous and medical waste. These impacts are long-term and often irreversible, and yet they received very little attention in post-conflict assessments. We know climate hazards do not become disasters on their own, and they become like disasters when resilience systems are weakened or destroyed. So, for example, heavy heat waves become deadly when electricity systems fail, and also heavy rainfall becomes catastrophic when drainage and sewage systems are damaged. And also, drought becomes a crisis when water governance and infrastructure are absent. So, in conflict systems, climate change acts as a threat multiplier. So, in this situation, I would like to briefly focus a little bit on Gaza as an example, extreme example of the environmental collapse under prolonged conflict. So in Gaza, related damage to water and sanitation infrastructure has resulted in a widespread groundwater contamination, including seawater intrusion into the coastal aquifer, which is the primary source of fresh water. At the same time, the collapse of solid, hazardous, and medical waste management systems has created serious environmental and public health risks, and with long-term impacts on soil, water, and living conditions. And from a climate resilience perspective, this situation is critical. Environmental deterioration in Gaza does not only increase the vulnerability, it actively limits the humanitarian access and delays recovery efforts and makes any meaningful climate adaptation nearly impossible. So what we see in Gaza is an environmental where destruction locks the communities into a continuous emergency cycle with no real transition from response to recovery. Also, from my work in environmental governance and WASH and disaster risk reduction, I have seen extraordinary resilience at all community level. So people adapt using temporary solutions that often become permanent, and communities innovate despite limited resources that they have. Women in particular, they carry much of burden of environmental stress and household adaptation. And however, resilience has limits. Communities cannot be compensate for the collapse of the systems and institutions. Also, Gaza, I think Gaza and the West Bank are not isolated cases from the world. They reflected a broader global pattern affecting many regions experiences same conflicts. or political instability. So a climate framework often assumes stability, governance, and access, but in conflict affected regions rarely fit these assumptions and are therefore excluded from climate finance and planning. And this exclusion weaknesses the global climate actions as a whole. So climate justice is not about emissions or responsibility. It is also about vulnerability, access, and inclusion. So communities that contribute least to climate change often face the most impacts, especially in conflict settings. And there are critical shifts needed at this stage, let's say. So conflict affected environmentals must be included in climate finance and adaptation frameworks, especially in the conflict areas. And environmental protection should be integrated into humanitarian and recovery response. Local knowledge and community-based solution must be also supported, not replaced. And climate resilience must be treated as a systems issue, not as a alone project. And also, I think in Gaza and the West Bank, they are often seen only through a political or humanitarian lens, but they should also be understood as environmental warning signals, and also taken into consideration the international human law, so humanitarian law. And also environmental resilience under VIAR is not a local issue. I think it's a global responsibility. And all of the parties, the international parties, should be responsible for what is happening in other side of the world. They have to find those solutions and tackle the issue under these emergency situations. And thank you so much for your attention, and I'm looking forward for any discussion.
Thank you so much, GHADEER, for grounding us in a reality that is too often overlooked when it comes to global climate discussions. Thank you also for highlighting how important resilience is when it comes to adapt to the climate change impacts, but also the importance of the climate justice as a system to combat these challenges. Now, let's move to our second speaker, Brandon OKOTH, who will speak also about his work as the original Cassandra Local Climate Forum leader in Kibera, Nairobi. Please, Brandon, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Joa. My name is Brandon OKOTH, and I'm a resident born and raised in Kibera slums, known as Africa's largest urban slum. And in Kibera, basically what we are doing is that we're educating children by ensuring that they have free access to quality education. So I run a program called the Watoto program, and within it, we provide free sponsorship opportunities to children, very vulnerable children who need access to education. And I first met Richard Elman together with Anam in 2022. And since then, we have been walking this journey of bringing education to children in Kibera, and at the same time also educating them and bringing awareness about our environment. We have been able to do a lot. We were among the first, in fact, we were the first local climate forum by Cassandra in Kibera. And since then, we have been able to work with the community by bringing a lot of awareness in the river cleanup, where we involved volunteers and provided protective gears for them to participate, because these were people who were already participating in cleaning up the environment, but there's a lot of resources that they were lacking. We find that people will get into waters, cleaning the river, yet there's no gumboot, there's no gloves, and inside that water, there's all sorts of trash and sewage. So, and this is a river that has been there and continues to suffer with all kinds of trash, from toilets and all that, dead animals, metals. And together with Kibera Local Water Forum, Kibera Climate Forum, sorry, we have been able to educate more children. Right now, we have 32 students that we're sponsoring, boys and girls, without choosing which gender to support, because our movement has all been about inclusivity and connecting communities, connecting women, connecting children, and standing on one agenda. But we must educate our community. You can imagine that I come from a community where more than 51% of grade 6 students, those are children from age 10, all the way to grade 9, which is age 15. You find that 51% of them, they cannot read or comprehend grade 3 level English. And this you find that it's because of the challenge that most of our children depend on the public institutions and public schools, but they're already overwhelmed, where you find that in a classroom, there's more than 130 students. So it's a very unfortunate situation that is happening in Kibera, and it's up to the people, it's up to the community to rescue itself, because this is a community myself, as I mentioned, I was born into. And I've seen, I've experienced the same challenges that keeps on happening and keeps on getting carried by the next generation, the coming generation. So we are a group of youths who have really come together and said no to the injustices that we are seeing. We can't continue having families going day in, day out without food. We can't continue to have families who cannot take care of their medical bills. When you get sick, you know that you're already dying because you cannot afford to go to the hospital. And when you go to the hospital, you find that there's no medicine. These are injustices that we have to speak up about. So together as our local climate forum, we talk about the injustices that happen in our community. And from a very early age, because myself, as I mentioned, I started the Watoto program when I was only 22 years old. Today, this year I'll be turning 26. So you can imagine, I'm part of the Gen Z, the Kenyan Gen Zs. And it's just calling out bad leadership, calling out inclusivity, and just saying that we need to support even the young, because they are seeing and they want to rescue themselves, and they want to rescue those that are coming after them. It's very unfortunate that like for example, we don't have the resources that are totally needed to help us change, because you find that you have to approach maybe big organizations, and before you get there, you have to pass through a lot, and there's a lot of requirements that come in. So those are injustices. Yet we, the local people, understand our issues. We know what is ailing us, and we know how to solve it. The Watoto program started as a volunteer, and in fact continues to run as a volunteer space, where we invite volunteers from different backgrounds to come in and give their specialties, and to come in and support just to build a community. That's how we've been able to move. We've been able to do food programs for more than 800 families during calamities like the 2024 flooding that really affected families, even children that we support. And when we started to bring in, even when we started to have our sponsorship school, it was basically because we could see that there are some very certain things that kids were not even able to read. At age for a 14-year-old child not being able to read a 10-year-old textbooks, very unfortunate. So you find that our education system is very overwhelmed and keeps on continuing the same. When you have a child in a classroom of more than 130 students and only one class teacher, that is an injustice for that child. Even if you don't understand, even if you don't have the required materials, because how can you share a textbook with 4 people when you're given assignment in the evening? How would you share that? So those are some of the things that we're trying to address as the Watoto program. And most importantly is to give our children safe spaces where they can feel loved, valued, and appreciated. These are children who experience domestic violence at home, because first of all, you find that their parents have to go every day, every morning, they have to leave their homes, they have to go out to search for a living. And sometimes it may work, may not. And when it doesn't, you find that these are the same children who these frustrations their parents bring back to them. There's a lot of crime, drugs, and happening also within our community. And you find that we've been able to rescue the youth that participate in our cleanup activities. Someone you ask them, why do you take a Saturday or a Sunday morning and you come with us and you go door to door collecting garbage from these houses? We've been able to remove more than 5 tons since we started of garbage from our door-to-door collection and the river, Nairobi River, if you're aware of it, which needs everyone's attention right now. And you find that they tell you that it's because I want to be productive, I want to be busy. I don't want to get into drugs because if I sit down, I'll be doing hard drugs. I'll be falling into depression. I'll be feeling suicidal. So these are some of the impact that we are trying to bring for our community as the Watoto program. And I must say thank you to Richard for believing in us since day one. He has been with us, he has supported us, and it's courtesy of people like those that we're able to move, because for us, as I mentioned, it's a community that, again, doesn't have much of a living. It's more on a survival basis every day. So it's not a community where you can just find food. Food is sometimes seen as luxury. Having 3 meals a day is luxury. And it's depressing when you see children at the age of 12, 13-year-old nursing their parents because they cannot afford to take them to the hospital. Those are states that are happening currently and still happens here in Kibera. And those are some of the things that we're trying to change. When we give these kids quality education, when we give them opportunity to go out and to explore and to see different parts of Nairobi, we are removing them from just the normal Kibera lifestyle where you see things are not working. Drainage is filled with all trash. Water, there's no water in your house. You have to walk for some miles to get water. There's no proper sanitary bathroom because you have to share with hundreds of strangers from neighbors. There's a lot that doesn't work, yet these kids keep on seeing this and keep on repeating. So there's the circle of poverty keeps on repeating. Kids are going into schools, they're going in zero, they're leaving zero because there's nothing that they're gaining from those schools. So for us, we are very keen and saying that it is important that we provide quality education to a Kibera child, because they need. They're already in a very tight situation. There's no food at home. There's a lot of abuses that they're seeing within the community. There's lack of resources for them even to just have a pencil. There's a child in Kibera, if you just gift a pencil, you've really changed their life. And that's what we're trying to do, to bring as much as possible access to academic materials to these children as easily as possible. And that's the work of the Watoto program. And I'm proud to be a member of the Cassandra Local Climate Forum. And I'm proud to be here. And I wish that the world will know that a Kibera child also deserves. There's nowhere written that a Kibera child should only suffer or should just live in poverty. There's nowhere written. Also, then one day, they could be the managers, they could be the CEOs, they could be the engineers, because also them, when you sit down with them and listen to their stories, those are what they're sharing. They want to be able to provide family homes for their families because they see the troubles that they have. They see the challenge that they have. They want to provide food for their families because they see and they experience the challenge that they have. So my hope is that we continue to work together and to continue to champion for quality education for these children. And let's break the circle of poverty. Thank you.
Deeply human account of what a community-led change really looks like. And thank you also for sharing with us all these realities that are sometimes very overwhelmed. And actually, this is what the Cassandra conference is seeking to address. Without further ado, our session is over now, and we'll be passing to the next session, which is entitled The Role of Science Embassies, How the Expertise of Scientists background. Thank you again for our speakers for sharing with us their insights and comments on what the Climate Local Fora look like. Thank you again, and I wish you a fruitful conference. Thank you so much.
Thank you.